There are many strange things in this world, and not all of them can be explained. Like an entire town disappearing, or the silhouette in the darkness that disappears the moment you look at it. Everything we do, it's real. We test legends of the paranormal in an attempt to prove if our well-known legends are fact or fiction. What is really hiding in the closet? Time to provoke some ghost stories. Nothing paranormal is safe. Welcome to Provoke Me. We are a team of paranormal investigators, and we investigate legends of the paranormal in an attempt to prove if any of them are real. This investigation is on the legend of the Skinwalker, a creature able to change its shape and mimic sounds to hunt down and terrorize its prey. As the days have gone by, the legend of the Skinwalker has been talked about and known for a long while. The origin of the legend comes from the ancient Navajo culture and was named Yi Naldlushi, which translates to, by means of it, it goes on all fours. The Navajo legend is not well understood outside of Navajo culture. This is mostly due to the reluctance to discuss with outsiders. The Navajo people are reluctant to reveal the lore of the creature with outsiders, as the Navajo believe outsiders are untrustworthy. The creature was believed to be a witch that could change into any creature as long as it was wearing the creature's skin. The Navajo fear this creature that much that wearing the skin of any predatory animal is taboo in their culture. The creature usually prefers to hold the shapes of trickster-like animals such as coyotes. They also prefer to take the shape of animals associated with bad omens such as crows. It is also believed that if the Skinwalker takes your skin, it can use it to turn into you as well. Stories of the Skinwalker can be complete life or death situations that end in either death or struggling to escape and scaring off the Skinwalker. Some people believe that talking about the Skinwalker or saying its name out loud can give the Skinwalker power and lead the creature to your location. Whether this is true or not is unproven. Non-native interpretations of the Skinwalker stories usually take the form of partial encounter stories on the road, where the protagonist is temporarily vulnerable but then escape from the Skinwalker just in time. These stories are usually untrue but are adapted versions of the original stories made to keep the legend going over the years. According to the legends, it is believed that the creature will hang around in dark, non-public areas such as graveyards and abandoned buildings. Not only can the creature mimic shapes, but it is believed that it can also mimic sounds that it's heard before, such as people's voices or even animal sounds. It is believed to use this to lure in its prey. Any attempt to run from it will fail, as the Skinwalker is believed to be extremely fast. In some legends, it is said that if you hear the creature mimic the sound of someone screaming for help, then you should assume the worst. The legend of the creature is so famous that there is even a place named Skinwalker Ranch. It is named that because of the amount of Skinwalker sightings and activity. People believe there is something at the ranch attracting them to the area, but there is no evidence to prove if this is true or not. Skinwalker Ranch, also known as Sherman Ranch, has had a lot of paranormal activity, almost all of which related to skinwalkers. Many people talk about their experiences on the ranch, such as a person who had seen a weird human-like creature at the top of a tree staring directly at them, but there is no proof if their story is true or not. Some people believe that if you are being hunted by a skinwalker, then you must find the name of the creature before it had become a skinwalker, and that will protect you. It is also believed that salt can be used to protect yourself as well, like making a salt circle around yourself. After searching for ways to summon the creature, I had found many results, including encounters and stories. This one specifically I found interesting. The title is "Those of You Who Believe Saying the Word Skinwalker at Night." Here is an image of the original story. For those who believe saying its name at night can attract them to you, do you believe it has to be spoken? Or if you think/type their names, do you think that would trigger them to you? I have been lying in bed for the past hour reading stories and told my sister and cousin, over text, to look them up. And suddenly, after I started saying stuff to them, the dogs began barking for no reason. I thought I heard breathing and light scratching on the window behind my head. The lights have turned on outside, motion censored, and I thought I heard shuffling as well. Not sure if my mind is playing tricks on me or not. And right now, just as I'm about to press post, I swear I'm hearing like a low-toned moaning outside. Any advice would be appreciated ASAP. Thanks. Here is another good story. I was a kid when this happened. My uncle and I were finishing up chopping and gathering firewood for my grandmother because it was getting dark, driving back on a dirt road at about 30 miles per hour, give or take 5 miles per hour. I had this awful sense of being watched. Before I could turn to look out my window, passenger side, my uncle quickly shouted, "Don't." I completely froze. My heart felt like it was beating out of my chest. Then completely stopped when I heard a tap-tap on my window. My uncle sped up and was loudly praying in my native language. I didn't know what was going on, and thought it was over till our truck suddenly dipped from the bed. My uncle then started saying, "Look at me and don't turn away," over and over. Then I heard it again, tap-tap, but from the window behind me. It was getting harder for me to breathe and I wanted to cry. A minute or two passed and the truck dipped again. My uncle looked around and sighed. It was quiet besides the truck and the road. He looked at me and said, "We will ask your father to do a prayer in the morning so the evil will forget our faces." Navajo to English equivalent. I remembered curling up on the seat staring at the radio, watching time, listening to my uncle sing an old prayer till we got to my grandmother's house. I called my uncle because I had a nightmare about that night. We talked about it for a bit and he said, "It didn't see our faces, just eyes, like brake lights you see on the road. It watched you." Navajo to English equivalent. Before hanging up, I tried joking with him about it. "Why didn't you just step on the brake when it was in the back?" No laughter, just a pause, because it wasn't alone. The title of this story is called "Ye Now Lucy is Watching Me." My grandmother on my mother's side has always been very superstitious, for lack of better word. She's not religious, but she does believe in a lot of paranormal stuff. Her mother was full-blooded Navajo and her father was Irish. Either way, she'd never been anywhere east of Montana and she grew up in Nevada. One year when I was in grade school, we went to visit her. Most of the visit was pretty uneventful, typical boring old people stuff, except she was always kept her curtains drawn shut, and would always peek out of the window when someone asked what she was doing. She would simply reply, "Ye Now Lucy is watching me." This went on for nearly the entire visit until a few days before we were due to leave. My grandma and my then baby brother, he's 19 now, were in the front yard that evening, planting flowers, when all of a sudden my grandmother starts shouting, "Insert little brother's name here, get away from that creature, it's not safe." Of course, being in Nevada, we all assumed that my brother had found a scorpion or a rattlesnake, so we all ran outside to see my grandmother clutching my little brother, shaking in terror against the side of the house. Standing out in the yard was a large black Great Dane-sized dog. It was staring at my grandmother with an intensity I'd never seen before. It looked up at us, gave a little huff, and bounded off. I don't remember if it moved unusually fast or not, but do remember it had really deep yellow eyes. When my mother asked my grandmother what had happened, she kept repeating, "The ye nald Lucy has found me." She moved a couple weeks after that. And this is the last encounter story. It is titled Convinced I Saw a Skinwalker. As many of you might already know, many Navajo people, including my own family, are very reluctant to speak about skinwalkers because it is believed to attract their attention. Well, I, however, grew up away from the Navajo Nation and was very naive about the subject when it came to skinwalkers. I was an absolute skeptic. My mum used to tell me the story of how back in the 80s, when she lived with her siblings and grandparents, still in Shiprock but the southern outskirts, about how she and my aunt saw a skinwalker just outside the driveway under a streetlight. She described it as a black dog with dirty fur, a twisted noodle-like front leg, and these unnatural eyes with a soft burnt orange glow. Me, being my own close-minded self, doubted every word, but I never said my doubts aloud. But these doubts totally changed last year when I went to my grandparents' house last October. Me and my family had just finished scourging the carnival at the Navajo Nation Fair and called it a night. The house was close enough where we could just walk home just 10 minutes, so we did. When we got there, it was about 9 at night, where we stayed up until about 2 catching up about the family affairs and the local news. It was during that time that I decidedly opened my mouth and blurted out the question, "Hey, are skinwalkers real, guys?" I asked. "You shouldn't be speaking about that," my grandma said, with almost a disturbed yell in her voice. So she and my grandfather both decided to go to bed. After being scolded by my mum, one of my aunts chimes in with every cautious tone and says, "They're real alright. Had a few start screaming outside my trailer in Farmington just a few nights ago. Your cousin had nightmares the whole night and woke up crying that morning. Not wanting to push discomfort any further, we all decide to go to bed. Now the trailer home is pretty old and it was really nice nights, so we slept with the windows open, with the screens to prevent bugs coming in. Everyone had drifted off to sleep except me, because my mind was still going million miles a minute about skinwalkers and wondered if I ever encounter one while here in the reservation. As a kid, I was told it's taboo to think about skinwalkers because it can still call their attention. That's when shit totally hit the fan. Just as I was setting and finally getting relaxed for sleep, I started to hear something moving outside. I get up from the couch, start wandering over to the kitchen window in the trailer. All of the rooms have the lights out, so the only visible light that can be seen is from the porch light out front. I was thankful for this because I told myself if it really was a skinwalker outside, then hopefully it wouldn't notice me seeing it, so I muster up the courage and take a quick scan of outside. From the porch light, all I can see is the dusty ground and the vehicles that my family drove along, with some old metal trash cans that stood beside the road. Looking for about a good 5 seconds, I wasn't able to see anything. So I was getting ready to turn around and walk back to bed thinking it was just a stray cat or something. Only have taken 2 steps, I hear what sounded like a distorted scream coming from outside, definitely close by. Fear rising, I look outside again, and there I see it. A coyote-like figure was staring at my direction from behind the cars, just outside of the reach of the porch light. Only it looked awfully wrong and gave off an evil vibe just seeing it. It was grey with very dissheaved hair and a horrific orange-red soft glow came from its eyes. I noped the hell out and ran back to the bedroom. It was at this moment I had begun to also notice an awful stench in the air. It smelled like rotting meat. I started trying to wake up my mum, who was like, "Oh my god, it's almost 3 a.m, what do you want?" I was immediately began to shake and voice, "There's something scary outside." Then she said, now annoyed because I woke her up, "It's probably just a stray animal or something. It's the res. Animals wander all the time at night." She obviously wasn't getting the drift of what I was saying, so I screamed, "There's some Blair Witch Project shit outside, Ma." That got her attention. "What? What the hell are you talking about?" she said. Then we heard it. The thing outside started making more of its dreadful screams and started what sounded like thrashing outside on the ground. "Hear that? That's what I'm talking about." So both her and I got back up, looked outside the window, and the coyote thing was making its way to the door. It walked with an odd limp and dragged its back leg as if it was handicapped. We could hear it start to scratch outside against the door and make this muffled moaning sound. My mum went back and got my dad, and they both started shouting in Navajo, all sorts of words telling the thing that to go away and say it's not welcome here. Well, all this commotion was enough to get the rest of the trailer up. As they came out into the hallway, the only thing Mom did was turn to them and said, "Skinwalker," while proceeding to point to the door. Noise is still happening. Apparently they already knew exactly what to do, as my grandfather got a handgun from the drawer and a bag of ashes. He coated a few bullets and loaded them into the gun and went straight to the door, yelling out more Navajo that was too fast for me to comprehend. He swung open the door and fired twice. Nothing. The thing managed to escape before my grandpa could put a bullet in it. "That's the fastest one I've seen," said my grandpa. Next thing you know, my aunts and my parents are freaking out about what just happened, saying stuff like, "What if it comes back tomorrow?" and "It saw us, does that mean we're targets now?" Afterwards, my grandparents calmed everyone down, myself included, saying, "We'll be fine," and we all went to bed. Around 3-ish. Morning comes and my grandparents call one of the neighbors and explain them what happened. Apparently one of them was a medicine man who used to partake in Yebe She's Navajo ceremonies used for healing and curing sickness, and came over to bless each family member and the grounds outside. It isn't yet proven if any of these encounter stories are true or false. However, they do share similarities to the original legend and what it was believed to be as a creature. This doesn't prove it's real, but it is something to think about. The legends of this creature still continue to this day. But is any of it true? Is it possible to summon such a creature? Or is this just a story created to scare kids? Let's find out. These are the tools we will be using for this investigation. We will be using 3 different cameras, all of which have night vision, a tripod and a large tripod. We will also be using salt, mostly for protective purposes against the paranormal. We placed one camera facing the front door, the second camera was put outside facing away from the building, and the third camera was with me while I was patrolling the property. After setting up the cameras and placing the salt, we are ready to test things and provoke this legend. We have tried 3 separate ways to summon this creature. Now it's figuring out if it worked and prove if this is a real living nightmare or just a story. Before continuing, I've recorded a lot and I found something interesting in the footage, so let's have a look at that before we continue. After checking many hours of footage for possible Skinwalker evidence, I had noticed something strange but interesting. The camera had picked up a weird, bright, transparent thing go past the camera. Although it's not what we were looking for, it's still quite interesting. The area where I live does have quite the history, so it is possible that it could be some form of ghost activity picked up by the camera. The area that I live in used to be an old folks' home, so it is possible that this is a lost soul of someone who used to live at said home. There is no evidence to prove this, but it is still possible. I had thought that would be the only ghost activity I'd find, but my first camera had picked something up by the front door. It looked similar to a ghost orb. This is not the kind of paranormal activity we were looking for, but it is still quite interesting and pretty cool. We weren't aiming for ghost activity, but we still think people would have liked to see it. Now back to the Skinwalker investigation. After multiple summon attempts, it had seemed as if it hadn't worked, and it seemed like an open and shut case considering nothing had happened after 3 days of summon attempts. However, during the 4th night, I was writing important information into the Provoke Me Omicron, and I heard a sound that sounded quite like a tree falling. After hearing this sound, I patrolled the area looking for the source of the sound, and after almost an hour and a half, I had found what caused the sound. It was one of my smaller trees. It had been completely smashed as if something very heavy had smashed it. This is the destroyed tree. And this is what it roughly looked like before it was destroyed. From closer examination, the tree was still growing and not even halfway grown, and it was very obvious that whatever crushed it came directly from above. I believed it was possible that a larger branch from a higher tree had fallen, and the weight mixed with the momentum of the fall had completely flattened it. And nature is just like that. It happens. It makes complete sense, however the only problem is there was no foreign branch anywhere near the destroyed tree. Which was very strange to me. Whatever had crushed it would have had to be incredibly heavy, so I'm not sure what it could have been exactly. I tested many summon attempts each day and each night at an attempt to attract the creature, and I only really had any activity on the 4th night. On the 5th night, it was all quiet, no results and no activity. On the 6th night, I had no activity, and no results either. So I left the cameras on and went to sleep early. Those cameras recorded the strange ghost activity that night, which I've already showed you earlier. During the 7th night, I was on my phone talking to the team that helped make this show. We were deciding whether or not to close this case on the investigation of the Skinwalker because we weren't getting any results, so the summoning had proven fake. After finishing talking to the team, I started editing the video, and I happened to hear something outside. It sounded like crunching leaves coming from the outside. I ignored it because animals exist, so it could have very well just been a fox or an owl or something. After a few minutes, the crunching sound had stopped completely, and it was silent. However, after an hour had passed, I started hearing something else. At first, I thought it was just my mind screwing with me, so I tried to ignore it. But it didn't seem to stop. The sound was like scratching on the walls, like a knife scraping on concrete. It was like there was something outside, and it wanted in. At first, I was trying to make sense of it, thinking it could have just been a bird pecking and scratching at the wall, Maybe trying to land on a window or catch a bug connected to the wall like a caterpillar or something. But a bird doesn't scratch a wall for over an hour. This was something different. I have attempted to record the sound, and I believe I was successful in recording the sound, and I have to boost the audio to make it able to be heard, so here's a warning, it is loud. After hearing that sound for another 20 minutes, I decided to go outside and investigate, as well as patrol the area. And the moment I had opened the door, I heard a loud movement, crunching leaves like something was trying to get away. It's 100% possible that when I opened the door, I had just startled an animal. But if it was a skinwalker, you wouldn't have been able to tell the difference. I had patrolled the area around my house that night. I had patrolled for almost 3 hours trying to see if there was anything outside.
Out here looking around for things because I've been hearing some weird noises, and I'd already investigated a bit over there, and the problem is that
maybe a wild animal was in my area looking for some food or something. After patrolling and searching the area, I didn't find any animal, but I had found that one of my bushes had been damaged and had a massive hole in it. I have neighbors, but I know none of them would damage my property like this. And I highly doubt it was an animal, because the only animals in my area are foxes, birds, and hedgehogs. And I'm sure if that was the case, I probably would have seen a nest of some kind. After seeing the damaged bushes, I had followed the way the bushes grow, which leads to a destroyed building nearby. The small building was destroyed before I moved here, and is definitely very old. And I've seen this building before, but this time it was different. While I was there, I had an overwhelming unwelcome feeling. I returned to the destroyed building during the day to get a better look around, but I didn't find anything besides trampled plants. But I did notice that that overwhelming, unwelcome feeling had gone. It seemed like a good thing at first, but what if it was just that the thing had moved, but still around? After that day, I didn't patrol the area again, or go out much, as it felt like it was unsafe. I felt unsafe inside my own home. I tried very hard not to go outside, and I did all my work inside for the first few days. I worked for a while late into the night until something disturbed me during the 11th night. Someone knocked on my back door, and the main reason it startled me was because none of my neighbors would knock on my door at 4 a.m. I was a little startled, so I grabbed my camera and moved toward my back door just in case there was something to record. Or maybe my neighbor did actually knock due to an emergency. However, when I reached my back door, there was nothing around. And if it was my neighbor, then I would have seen him on the pathway back to his house. But there was nothing. Not even an animal, just darkness and pure silence. After that, I felt a lot more paranoid about the whole situation. And I once again felt unsafe in my own home. But I had already researched ways to protect myself from the paranormal. Salt happens to be quite effective, so I decided to place salt at every entrance and every window, and I locked all the doors. I didn't manage to sleep that night, so I searched online for a professional to help me cleanse the area, and with any luck, get rid of this unsafe, unwelcome feeling. After placing all the salt around my house, I decided to patrol the area again, but during the day, and that's when I had noticed something. My small polytunnel had been destroyed, and one of the metal pipes, or metal stakes, was missing and broken, but something I did notice was a bloody puddle on top of the polytunnel. I don't think it was a bird or a fox, or anything, because let's say a bird had landed on the polytunnel to get the seeds under it, and it standing on the polytunnel put pressure on the metal stake, which forced the stake into the bird. Then where's the body? The damaged polytunnel was the only thing I had noticed to be abnormal. Apart from that, I had not noticed anything strange happening. After a day of no activity, I had assumed that if there was actually something, then it must have left the area. It seemed early to assume it was done, but it seemed quiet, and nothing strange was really happening that day. The following day seemed to be quiet, but the following night was different. I'd noticed during that night I could hear my neighbor's dog barking in the distance, and I tried to drown it out by listening to music, but after almost 20 minutes I had taken my headset off to go to the bathroom, and the dog was still barking. After I was done in the bathroom, I looked outside my window and thought maybe their dog escaped their garden and something had scared it, so I grabbed my flashlight and jacket and I went to investigate. But I noticed the moment that I left my door, the barking stopped, and I was in the pitch black. It was slightly startling, but I patrolled the area just in case of an emergency, as I do personally like dogs, and I do like my neighbor. I patrolled the area and a little outside the area looking for the dog or anything strange, but as I started to go home I noticed something odd. One of my motion lights was set off, but there was nothing around, not even an animal. So I looked around the area in an attempt to figure out what set off my motion lights. After about 11 minutes I had found nothing and was getting ready to call it quits. But as I turned the corner I saw from afar that one of my motion lights was set off before my very eyes. I slowly walked over to it and was trying to be quiet, but there wasn't anything there when I got there. I'm not sure what set it off. However, after research I had found that paranormal entities such as ghosts can set off motion lights. So it's possible that that could have been the case, but I'm not sure as of now. During that day things had gotten quiet and no longer active. There were a few things that were purely coincidental, but besides that things had gotten quiet. But there was one thing I noticed that bothered me. I like the quiet, it's nice and relaxing, and nature is more relaxing. But the thing that bothers me was that when I moved here you could always hear birds. But as of now, it was dead silent. Not a single bird or moving sound, just pure silence. It seemed rather unnerving and only made me feel more paranoid about the whole situation. I'm not sure if it only happened now or if it was like this the whole time and I just didn't notice. During this time I was still looking for a professional to cleanse the area to ward off any paranormal dangers and make the area safer. However, it was harder to find a professional than I had thought originally. But I had found sites and people giving info on how to cleanse the area myself using sage. On the topic of sage cleansing, I shall now explain how it is believed to work. Burning sage, also known as smudging, is an ancient spiritual ritual. Smudging has been well established as a Native American cultural or tribal practice. Although it isn't practiced by all groups, many other cultures around the world share similar rituals. Smudging has long been used to connect to the spiritual realm or intuition. For healers and lay people, in tradition cultures, burning sage is used to achieve a healing state or to solve or reflect upon spiritual dilemmas. This may have some scientific basis too. Certain types of sage, including salvia sage and white prairie sage, contain thujon. Research shows that thujon is mildly psychoactive. It's actually found in many plants used in cultural spiritual rituals to enhance intuition. It is believed that cleansing something with sage can dispel negative energy, which is also believed to rid evil or negative ghosts and demons. Smudging may also be used as a ritual tool to rid yourself or your space of negative energy. This includes past traumas, bad experiences, or negative energies of others. It is believed that cleansing something can help ghosts cross over and ward off evil, angry spirits. After ordering smudge sticks online, it became the case of, how do I use them? But it was pretty straightforward. Burn the smudge sticks and take them around the area that needs to be cleansed. During the cleansing of the area, I had taken my camera with me to record myself cleansing the area, and as a plus, if anything had happened, I would be able to capture it on camera. For obvious reasons, I cleansed the entire area including the grounds, the destroyed building, my own home, the garden, and the specific areas that had strange happenings and strange activity. After cleansing the area, it was really just a case of figuring out if it worked. So I had started patrolling the area again and looking for anything strange. While patrolling the area, I didn't find anything strange at first, but it unfortunately escalated quickly. On the first day, there was nothing changed and nothing strange to report. On the first night, still nothing strange happening. On the second day, there was still nothing strange going on, and on the second night, there was still nothing strange. Third day, after cleanse, completely silent, no activity. Third night, the cleanse didn't work. It is very apparent that the cleanse didn't work. I was beginning to believe everything that happened was purely coincidental, but I saw something at my window and it wasn't a person.
Even in my own home, I've been hearing strange sounds from that window. And it has been going on for a fairly large amount of time. That's why the large light is on, because there is something out there, and I have no fucking clue what it is, but it is making strange sounds. Something was at that window, right there, right staring at me on my computer. Computer right there, everything set up. Something right there staring at me, making really strange sounds. The moment I look, thinking, what the fuck was that?
At the time, I heard close breathing, and that was how I noticed the thing. I have no idea how long it was watching me, but I'm going to find a real professional to cleanse the area this time. After that night, I had one of the members of the Provoke Me team look up more info on cleansing and found out that you cannot cleanse outside areas. That information was startling. I will be seeking professional help with making the area safe once again. As of this moment, I am now testing multiple methods that are believed to help in making the area safe. As it is believed, thinking about or talking about the creatures will attract them. And I have had to think and talk about the Skinwalkers a lot as to work on this episode you're watching right now. So I will be avoiding anything related to the creature for 3 days before continuing this investigation. Over the course of these 3 days, I had not encountered anything during the day or the night, and it could be related to the methods we used for the protection. However, we are uncertain if this is the case or not. If anything truly was around, then it's possible that the methods may have helped in some way. However, there is no evidence proving or disproving this. Some of the things we have run into are quite strange, and could be related to the Skinwalker that we attempted to summon, but some of the things we ran into could be nothing more than a coincidence. Now all that's left is figuring out what is related and what is coincidental. The damaged bushes. While patrolling the area, we found one of my bushes had been damaged. Although it was strange, it was purely coincidental. A fox was what caused the damage and was probably just trying to make a nest, as it was seen on the property mostly around that same damaged bush. The damaged polytunnel and the bloody puddle. This was probably one of the weirdest things that we had found. It was quite interesting, but it was just a coincidence. After further investigation, we had found a rat had damaged the polytunnel and been stabbed by the metal spike in the process, and the fox living somewhere on the property had found the rat for a free meal. The completely destroyed tree. This was one of our least weird ones. The tree was flattened. We genuinely have no idea what happened with this. Strangely enough, we have no answers for what happened. Maybe it is related to the summoning of the creature, but there is no proof. The dog barking a lot. This, at the time, seemed very strange. The dog happened to be barking for a strangely long time, but after talking to the neighbors, it was proven coincidental. During the time, the dog was barking as it had happened to escape the neighbor's garden, and was scared of the traffic nearby. As strange as it seemed, it was nothing but a coincidence. There was something living at the destroyed building. This one creeped me out. During one of the first few nights, I had seen a moving silhouette at the destroyed building, and at the time it startled me. However, on further investigation, it turned out to be a fox, and is not related to the summoning of the Skinwalker in any way. The scratching from the outside. This one was strange. It didn't happen very frequently, but it was one of the creepiest things I had ever ran into, and I am still not sure what made these strange sounds. It could be related to the summoning of the Skinwalker, but there's nothing to prove or disprove this. This one is left without answers. The motion lights going off with no visible cause. This one seemed weird at the time, but this truly could have been anything, like a bird flying by or something. So we believe this is nothing but a perfectly timed coincidence. The thing at the window. I cannot explain this. Something was at my window staring at me, and I only noticed after taking off my headphones and hearing the loud, heavy breathing coming from my window. I didn't get a good look at it, as my blind was covering most of the window, but from what little I saw, it didn't look like a person. It could have been the creature, but there's nothing that I can say that can prove this is the case. After everything we have investigated and explored, we are still left with many questions and not enough answers. And yet, we still need to come to a conclusion. We have no true answers, and yet we also have nothing to disprove the creature or its existence. We have run into some very strange things, but still we are left with only mysteries. So what can we say about this investigation? Not much. The Skinwalker investigation is left a mystery. As much as I'd love to say there is proof, there really isn't any. We definitely ran into some strange things, but no concrete evidence to prove or disprove this creature and its existence. However, we may revisit this investigation at a later date, but as of now, our investigation is over and the Skinwalker is the first of many to be provoken. The Skinwalker is the first of many to be investigated and provoken in our series. Expect more than just legends. We will be visiting them all one by one, and we are far from done. And our next investigation isn't far away. We look forward to seeing you in our next investigation. A paranormal entity said to live in the mirrors. The ritual states that participants may endure the apparition screaming at them. This is a K2 meter, and it detects electromagnetic fields created by the paranormal and some electronics. The mirrors are portals for ghosts of all kinds. Who was she before her death? A chance they would see a skull, indicating that they will die. The apparition allegedly appears as a corpse that may be good or evil. I felt a breath on the back of my neck. In the doorway was a large, dark figure of a lady. This dark game was real. The legend of Bloody Mary.